time.
Right, let's go up
No,
there.
you go up there, you go up there.
Come up, because okay.
Well, our father came to Dungarvan in the mid-50s. He answered an advert on the paper looking for a barman, and he came down. He arrived on the square very early on a morning and met a local man, Martin Duggan, and he came in here. The man that owned this place was Con Dempsey, and Con Dempsey wanted someone to run it because he had a farm. He was too busy with his farm. He wasn't interested in the pub. So immediately anyway, he gave our father the job of running the pub. And 2 years later anyway, my father bought him out. So it became the Enterprise Bar. It was formerly Dempsey's Bar, and it became the Enterprise Bar, called after the Enterprise Express train that ran from Cork, Dublin to Belfast in the 40s and 50s. My father was the chief steward on that, and when he took over the bar then, he created a lounge bar and restaurant, and he upped the standard of service in the town. My mother was from Donegal. He had met her while he worked in a hotel in Glenties, the Highlands Hotel, and his brother Denis Tynan, our uncle, was a photographer, and he went up to Donegal to visit my father and met up with a girl from the local chemist shop, and so the both brothers are married to Donegal girls, so that's the Donegal connection. But our father was from County Laois.
And what year then was that he came to here?
He came to here in 54, and he signed over on the pub in 55, 56.
Okay. And then obviously you were all born and raised here.
Well, I was born in Thurles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because he was transferred from the Dublin Belfast train to Thurles. So we lived in Thurles for a year, 9 months to a year.
And do you have any memory of Thurles?
No, sure.
My mother said when my father was on the train, and my mother was in my aunt's house in Thurles. My mother was waiting to have the baby, and she used to wave a nappy out the window at the train passing when the baby was going to be born. That was the signal that this fella came into the world.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But I was born here in the bar upstairs,
okay,
in opening hours.
And Dennis, what's your earliest memory of the square and just this bar? What's your earliest memory?
I can remember way back to the early 60s when the mart and the fair used to be out in the square, long before the cattle mart was ever put up. And even when the mart was put up, a lot of the farmers didn't want to go out there because they wanted to stay with the old way. And the square used to be full of sheep and pigs and horses and cows, everything. And the old post office was across the road. They used to put a chain around because they had a cellar and they had the glass on the ground, like, so that they just let in light to the cellar. So they put a rail around so the cows wouldn't walk on it and scratch it. And the bank, the IB bank, they used to keep the place clean, they used to put a chain around it as well. And when the fair used to be over in the day, they all be out with their buckets and mops and hoses and cleaning up and all that kind of thing. That went on for years.
Yeah, it was great exciting for you as a child then, obviously.
Oh, it was, yeah, to see all these things coming into the town, yeah. And they'd be moving up and running around, and some of the sheep used to run into the businesses around different places, and they'd be in after them trying to get them out and all that kind of thing, you know. It was very good. It was a very exciting day because everybody came to town, all the country people would come to town as well. So you hadn't the modern convenience like a frozen foods back then, like, you know. So you had to get your messages on a kind of a weekly basis.
And what children would you hang around with when you were small?
Well, at that time there was an awful lot of people living on the square, which there's not today. But at that time there was an awful lot of kids living on the square, so we all used to play around together.
Yeah. And who would be your friends?
Oh, I had lots of friends, piles of friends, like, you just couldn't name them all, you know.
Well, on my age group there was Laura's Draper from Kineen's Bar, and there was the O'Flynn's,
Corns.
Tracy and Fenella and Chiara O'Flynn and John. And then we had the Corns next door with us and Jimmy, Tomas, Anya and Myra.
Kentillans.
And then we had Geraldine O'Flynn, who lived a couple of doors down again. Mm-hmm. And the Flynns then of the hotel used to come over to the square, the Park Hotel people. They used to own Lawler's Hotel, and they used to be up here in our gang.
Yeah.
There was lots of kids living around.
Yeah, so we used to play football out in the street and all that.
And there was an entrance down here into the cream. We used to sneak in there from time. It was a great place to hang out as well. And then as we kind of got older, you kind of moved away down around the lookout down by the swimming pool, which was a great place to hang out. And we used to play football and hide and seek and take inside in the park down there. And every now and again, a little boy or girl might come to the entrance at the top of the park, and they'd shout down there was a parcel after coming from England, clothes like. So there'd be 2 or 3 would run up the road and they'd get the clothes to come down with a new jacket or a new shirt or pants or something, you know. It was very exciting for them like at that time.
Okay.
That was before my time.
But that was a great place to hang out then as well down there as well. Once you got a little bit older, because it was dead safe because the road only went as far as the swimming pool. And then after that, then it was you were gone into the sea, like, you know. So.
Would you remember? Would there be a lot of activity down around the docks?
Yeah, in the daytime,
Okay.
but not in the nighttime because it was very badly lit. So it's just a place you wouldn't go in the nighttime.
Be afraid to go down
You'd
there.
be kind of afraid to go down there, but nothing ever happened down there. But I remember they used to have all the coal used to be stacked along there, and timber used to be stacked along there. So it was a kind of in the daytime it was a very active place. So some of my friends used to work. There were dockers used to work on the boats.
Used to be trying to get cigarettes.
And they used to get good money, like there was good pay for it, but you'd unload a boat like in a day or a day and a half, but they got good money, you know, so it was...
And would there be a lot of wheeling and dealing from the boats? Like, I mean, you mentioned cigarettes, would be vodka and stuff like that coming in? Or?
Yeah, you would, you give them a few bob and they give you a couple of cigarettes and vice versa, you know. They come from all over, like.
And just when you were children then running around, like, was it a very safe place? Like,
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Except for ourselves, we weren't too safe.
And would there be much rivalry between all the pubs here in the square? Like, in a way, like I'm thinking back, would there be like people ringing up saying, "Oh, there's fellas in drinking, they shouldn't be in there drinking," like from one pub to another, and always trying to get the other pubs into trouble?
Not really, no. No, but if there was anyone around like that shouldn't be around like that, you get a wrinkle that be careful, mind yourself, you know.
All right.
That
So
kind of
they all tic-taccing each other?
Yeah.
Okay. So they looked out for each other a bit?
Yeah. Or if you wanted to lend a cup of beer or kegs, you could get a lend off the pub next door or pub down the
so
road.
was that good cooperation between all the bars?
Yeah.
Okay.
But back then as well, like all the bars had different. It wasn't just a bar they were running. Like there was a bar across the road, Nicky Casey. He had a shop in the front. He used to sell vegetables and cabbage seed and all that. And Mickey Landers then he used to collect the paper for recycling. And there was another Tom Nugent, he used to rear pigs out in the back of the pub. And Jerry Kineen, Undertaker, taxi driver, shopkeeper, bus keeper, and publican. And my father then had the bar here, restaurant upstairs, and he used to do the cattle mart.
He had a restaurant.
He had a restaurant over in the cattle mart, in the local cattle mart.
And a bar.
And a bar.
And was he a chef then?
No, he was a head waiter on the train, but he had experience, like, you know, he knew what he was at, like, you know.
And would that,
He was one of the first restaurants to come into Dungarvan.
Okay, would your mother do the cooking then?
No, not really, no. We had
Yes, loads of staff.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
She did.
And then would you have had because you had a business and all that, would you have had somebody minding you upstairs if you one or father were busy?
No, my mum done all that.
Okay.
My mother used to say she'd leave me outside the door in the pram, and whoever was passing would take you along and bring you for a walk and bring you back.
But I mean, that was the flip side of having a bar, was you never saw your father really.
Oh, we did. We saw him all the
Well,
time.
apart from in there, isn't it?
But we lived here. This was
We
our
lived here,
home.
we just lived upstairs, you know.
We played with the customers.
But you wouldn't get much
And asked them for money.
Yeah, getting sweets off them. So.
Okay. And tell us about the neighbours. As you go around, like you mentioned the Currans next door.
Yes.
Tell us about the neighbours as you went around. Like, you know, what's your memory of going into their place when they were small? And
Into Tom Curran's hardware shop.
They'd always welcome you in, like, they were always delighted to see you. And sometimes if you went in, they give you a sweet next door in Jerry Kineen's or whatever. Or Tom Nugent might give you a small ice cream or whatever.
And we had a toy shop next door. Flynn's newsagent also sold toys, so you'd go in there and pick out something and try and coerce your father into buying it for you. Sometimes you were lucky. Or you go into Tom Curran's and trade a bottle of lemonade for something in there. Do a little bit of trading.
So would you be stealing the lemonade here?
Yeah.
Kinda, yeah. Borrowing it.
And getting a hurley in there.
Doing a bit of bartering?
Yes.
Okay.
The parents wouldn't know about it though.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then, what stage did you start doing work like? Did you work behind the bar as well?
Well, I worked upstairs in the restaurant after schools, like, and just only like part time, giving a hand out here and there. Like, I used to wash up, and then I started doing the cooking.
We'd have all of little jobs to do, chores.
Yeah, and over in the mat then I used to store the soup in a big pot. There used to be a big, huge pot of soup, and we'd have to keep stirring it to stop it from sticking to the end of the sauce. And we used to make sandwiches and tea over in the mat, so it's only kind of a part-time job, you know.
And in the mart, was that for the farmers? Like that?
Yeah.
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 So they came in then, they got their bit of food.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there are a lot of drink.
And they came over here for the drink then?
No,
the
no,
bar
no.
over.
Oh, you brought a bar over there?
Yes.
It was actually, there was no licence on it. They closed it down after about 10 years. It had no licence.
You got a caught eventually.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a bit of enterprise.
Yeah.
And so, like, that was interesting that you moved the bar over there as well as having this one here.
Yeah.
Okay, your father obviously was very enterprising, wasn't he?
He was very busy.
Yeah, between the two, I suppose there was about 16 to 20 staff
Wow.
between the two of them. You know, there was a big staff here.
Good God.
Yeah.
And,
All local people.
And go around the square now, who else can you remember? Like, with shops and what they were doing and all that kind of stuff. Just give us a flavour of what was
There was loads. Every place was thriving at that time, like, you know. You had Flynn's Chemist over, you had bars over, you had restaurants, you had shoe shop, Delaney's shoe shop over the road. Then in the 60s, there was a man came to town, John Doyle. He opened up an arcade, amusement arcade. And that was brilliant for us as well, because at that time you had nowhere to go. There was no youth club, no anything in Dungarvan. So we got the nickname the Kip. Because on a day, like, if you had nowhere to go or anything to do, you'd hang out in there. And there was one place you didn't want to get barred out of, because if you were barred out of there, you had nowhere else to go. And we'd be in there playing the machines. And
He's speaking for himself now.
yeah, well, but he used to give 10 shillings a week to the highest score on the flippers. And we used to be in there one day, we were watching the machine when it used to finish, when the next guy would come along and put in his sixpence in for the 3 games. We noticed that the numbers used to go up to 0-0 rather than down to 0-0. So we used to go down to the shop and ask the girl what was the highest score of the week, and she'd say 4,800. So we'd go up and we'd put the sixpence in, and we'd watch the numbers going up. And when it got up to 5,300, we'd tilt the machine and we'd get the 10 shillings. But they copped on to that as well. We got away with that for a couple of finals.
And was there a jukebox there?
There was indeed, yeah.
Okay, what records can you remember?
That was sixpence for 3 records again.
Do you remember any of the records they used to have there?
Oh yeah, but I just can't think of the names of them now. Like, you know, the jukebox was a big thing. And then the girls used to hang around the jukebox, and they wouldn't have any money. And they'd promote you when you come up to put in to play one of their songs out of the 3. So if you thought you had a chance of getting a kiss off one of them, you'd play their record. John was a devil for that too.
Hang on away. And come here. Was that, I mean, just about boys and girls, where would they go? Where would they meet? Was there any dances around that in town?
There was the town hall. Down the town hall, it was a great place on a Sunday night. But the only thing you get in there is you get, there was a brewery up the road, and they used to make orange and lemonade. And it was really good quality orange and lemonade. But you get there was no drink there was no bar in it, so you got orange lemonade and crisps. So if you met a girl and you'd ask her to dance, she'd say yeah, and then you'd have to bring her down and buy her a bottle of orange or a packet of crisps. And then eventually you could end up buying her sister a packet of orange and a packet of crisps as well. You know, just to hang on to her. Like.
Oh, what was that? Was that Kylie's or Kane's?
No, Powers.
Powers.
Keane's was down here as well, yeah. That was down Friary Street, Keane's brewery. That was another brewery. But Powers was the biggest of the two, like, it was a big brewery.
And then when you got a little bit older, which pub in town would the young fellas go to?
Well, there was one pub we saw was the Monkey House. That was down the road here. It was run by a man called Kevin Darcy. And our main seller was cider. Jungle juice they used to call it at the time. Or lunatic soup, there was another name for it. And if you went into Kevin and if he didn't know you, he'd ask you how old you were. And you'd say, I'm 15, oh that's alright. He'd say, if you were 14, he said, I wouldn't be able to serve you. But it was a great place again, like, to another place that you didn't want to get thrown out of, you know. So when you were in there, even though it was a kind of a crazy house, you behaved yourself when you were in there. You know.
And then, what kind of activities would young people be involved in? I mean, obviously, you all go to CBS, did you?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And what was the school like at that time? Was it tough or was it?
It was grand, like, you know, some of the teachers were cross and more of them were grand, like, you know, but it was a nice school, like, you know.
And then
If you had your homework done in the morning when you went in, you'd be a bit nervous, alright, like, you know what I mean? But overall it was good, you know what I mean?
Are we involved in any sports? Huh?
Oh, they were big into the hurling up in the Christian Brothers, yeah. They were big in, there was 2 or 3 Christian Brothers now, they were mad into the hurling. There was a cup there they used to try to win, I think it was down in Waterford as well, the Rice Cup. They were big into trying to win that every year, you know, so that was, the hurling was a big thing,
Okay.
you know.
And then did you play soccer as well outside of school?
Well, they didn't like you playing soccer. There was a friend of mine called Vincent O'Shea. He decided one day that we'd protest against playing the hurling, and we were all sitting down in the desk. And there's a section you off into different like teams and that for the hurling. So Vincent didn't store this day anyway, and the brother came down to him and he said to him, we were all sitting down beside him as well, about 25 of us. And he said, why aren't you getting up to stand with Friary Street? He said, we were playing it. He said, I'm not playing hurling anymore, so he said, I'm going to play soccer. The next thing he got a little bit of a tip into the ear, and the 20 rest of them all jumped up and got into the line. And that was the end of that.
So much for
We
soccer.
were all, yeah, gone straight away when the minute he got the clatter. All back onto all back into the line again, like, you know.
And then, like, where was your first paid job then, besides up here in the house and all that?
The Tower Hotel in Waterford.
All right.
Yeah, I was a trainee chef.
Okay. So you're following your father's footsteps.
Yeah, you could say, yeah. But I started off here, like, just kind of washing up, and then it progressed. I was doing a bit of cooking, and I liked it. So then again, I got a scholarship for Rockwell College, but I turned it down because I met a fella who was there, and there was too much schooling and praying involved in it, so I kind of gave it up, you know. I gave up the idea on it. So my father brought me down to the Tower, I got an interview in the Tower, and I got £3 a week, and I was quite happy there, yeah.
And what's your memory of Waterford at that stage?
I enjoyed it, made great friends, like, and it was my first time kind of away from home, because I lived in the staff accommodation down there, and I got to know an awful lot of Waterford people, and it was great kind of being away from home, but not away from home. If I got a bit of time off, I could always just tum up the road. At that time, tumming was a big thing, you know. Like, it's different today now, no one will stop for anyone tumming kind of today, but back then anyone would pick you up. So you could be back up in Dungarvan in half an hour, you know.
And tell me about, just about Dungarvan when you were small, or, because you mentioned the mart and the fair and all that, but do you remember any big gatherings, like political gatherings around that? Any of those kind of things happened?
Yeah, there was
Gala Week as well.
there was festivals in that here. There was Gala Week. That was a big thing as well, because there was something on everywhere in the town. Down in the local park, we had a big bandstand, so there'd be bands playing down there. There was a sailing club. They used to have races on down in the lookout. Vintage cars down by the swimming pool. The swimming pool then had competitions for swimming. The town hall had a beauty baby competition, and they used to be cycling around the town as well, around some of the streets. And they had these little go-karts that used to have races around as well, so, and they'd have music in the square. They used to put on a stage in the square, and some of the local bands used to play on the square. There'd be a different band every night, like, it was great, you know, as children, like, you know.
And who would organise all those fairs?
There was a man up in Mary Street, he was a barber called Con Roach. He was big into the Gala Week. He organised a lot of the Gala Weeks.
Okay.
And he'd go around to the big companies like Guinness's and that to get sponsorship.
Okay.
And he used to sponsor.
And would you remember any other gatherings? Was there ever any political stuff happening?
Yeah, years ago when the H Block was there was a man released from the H Block, and he came down and he got up in the back of a lorry there, and there was hundreds of people came to listen to him. But they were all excited to hear about this H Block, because down here it was kind of new. We knew about it, like, but to meet somebody that came out of there was kind of a big thing. So some of the local guards came up to try to take him off the lorry, and there was war outside. Well, there wasn't war, but there was scuffles outside in the square trying to get the man back off the local guards, you know.
And given your Donegal connections, was there a lot of sympathy for the Republican cause?
Oh, there was, yeah.
In your house?
Yeah. Back in the day.
Okay. And tell me, do you know about characters out of the area? You know, like when you were growing up, would there be many fellas that would come in once a week that you'd all have a laugh at or whatever, or have a, you know?
Oh, there was a lot of characters back then,
Tell
yeah.
us a few of them that you remember.
Well, I could tell you some that I couldn't tell you. But there was all different like lads, like, you know what I mean. There was a fellow out from old parish called Nicholas, and he came into town on Christmas Eve. And I don't know if you have to edit this now or not. There was a crib across the road, and he couldn't get a taxi home because that time there was no taxis. So he went in and he lay down in the crib, and they all came up for midnight mass. And Nicholas was inside in the crib asleep. So he came into the bar 2 or 3 days later, and one of the local lads said, "Hey Nicholas," he said, "I heard you slept with a donkey." "I did," he said, "and I slept with your mother as well," he said, "but I'd rather sleep with a donkey." I told you get away with that one, but there was all different characters. There was another small man there, Lord of Mercy, he's dead now, it was Willie O'Brien. He used to walk out in the local quarry, and he came into town one day to get some dynamite for the quarry, but they had to get the local guard to sign the form for the release of the dynamite. And there was a tree outside the door. After getting the dynamite, they tied the pony to the tree, and they came in drinking 2 or 3 large bottles before they went back to the quarry. Like if you done that today, you get jail, you know. So they left the pony outside the door with the dynamite up in the back of it.
And actually, speaking of which, do you remember any of the really old customers that used to come in here that were like from way back? Do you remember any of them?
Oh, I do, yeah.
Tell us some of those people.
Well, when you be small, like you come in, like, and someone they might give you a penny or two, and you sit down, you chat to them, like, you know. We had a lot of men. And then some of them used to come down. They might have a whiskey and a cup of tea. They'd bring down the tea from the restaurant, the sandwich, and they'd sit and they'd have a small bottle. Small bottles were very popular back then, like, and they'd have a pot of tea, whiskey, small bottle, and maybe a ham sandwich, you know.
Or would you remember any of their backgrounds or any of those fellas? Like?
Well, they all worked in different places. Some of them worked in, like, below in the leather factory. More of them worked in the creamery. More of them worked for farmers. They kind of done all different types of work. There was all different types of people from every kind of background, really, like as such, you know.
Or was there any old IRA men or any old British Army men?
There was. We had an old man used to come in here, and he was the bridge below in Valley Ride was blown up, and he was brought in for questioning on that. Whether he did it or not, no, I don't know. But he was brought in for questioning back in the day, you know.
Yeah, I mean, especially old people, they would come in for their half one and their small bottle or something like that. And what are any other characters on the street that you remember growing up, like that would come in once a week or whatever it was?
There was an awful lot of them. There was just an awful lot of people. Then people were very friendly. They were different today, like, you know. Everyone knew everybody. Like when I was growing up, I knew everybody in the town. I knew all the children, the grandfathers, the grandmothers, the mothers and the fathers. But today it's kind of all changed. You don't know anyone like today. Like, I don't know half the people in town today.
Was that a bad thing though for you growing up, in the sense of everybody knew what you were doing and what your business was?
No, not really, because you weren't really up to anything anyway, like, you know what I mean? You were just people like if walk around and talk to you, and you know what I mean, everyone knew you, like, as well, so you were kind of being looked after, like, as well as everything else, like, you know, so people
so your parents wouldn't worry about you?
No, they
you're
didn't.
You're out.
Yeah. I gave my father a bit of a shock there one day, alright. I was over in Abbeyside and I met 2 of my friends that had 2 motorbikes. And they dared me to stand up in the back, one leg up in each saddle, and come over the bridge, because the Abbeyside Bridge got a big hump bridge. So I got up in the back of it anyway, and I thought to myself for a minute that one fella might go one way and the other fella go the other way and I'd get killed. So I caught him by the back of the shorts so that they couldn't. And I came over the bridge and up through the square. My father was standing at the door, and he just shook his head and he went in and closed the door. That was some day, that was.
And was it just the 2 of you in the family?
Yeah.
Guys? Okay.
Yeah.
And then, did your wife, was she from Dungarvan?
Yeah, Teresa.
Okay.
Teresa Fraher, yeah.
Okay. Fraher?
Yeah.
Okay.
After her great grandfather had the Gaelic field over, Fraher's Field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a famous name down here.
Yeah, that's her great grandfather. Yeah.
And what other things then? I mean, say for example, was a relationship between here and, we say, Ring and Old Parish and all that?
Oh, well, there's a good connection back then, like, as well, because as I said about the shopping, like, you know, you had to come into town. And there was a lad used to drive the bus, Eddie Mooney. He used to come in every Friday. He'd drop all the people off, all the country people, like from Ring and Old Parish and everywhere. And he'd give them 3 or 4 hours going around the town to get their messages. And the whole hall down the outside of the bar there, the whole hall used to be full of messages. And he'd come back in then again around 10 to 2. The bus would leave at 2 o'clock. So he'd be in the front bar there and he'd smoke about 3, in the 10 minutes he'd be there, he'd smoke about 3 fags, 3 drops and 2 large bottles. And then he'd go around and drop them all off. Never had an accident. Never had an accident.
And would you remember, like we say, when you had the creamery and all that people would be using horse and carts and all that stuff?
Oh yeah. Like there's a photograph in the front there. I remember the local postman coming around with the cart, the hand cart, delivering the parcels. It was a big cart and he had 2 big handles on the back of it. And he had a kind of a tarpaulin on the top, and he used to come along and I'd be standing at the door. And he'd take off the top and he might go into Tom Corns with 2 parcels or into Jerry Kinne's with a parcel. And he walked around the town doing that. That was his job. And I remember the bin man coming around as well. He had a horse and cart. And he'd just take the bin off the street and he just emptied into the back of the cart. And when that was full, then he'd go to the dump it and come back around and start all over again. You know?
And I presume a lot of the farmers did that with coming into the creamery. They'd come in with milk and stuff, with horse and carts.
Oh, and churns, yeah. They'd come in with churns. You'd see them up in churns. Ponies. Some of them had donkeys as well, like, you know. And they'd all come in with their own churns. But then in later times, the big lorries came in, they took over then, so that done away with all that, like.
Yeah. And speaking of horses and ponies, do you remember the horse fair here?
Oh yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, they used to come in on the fair days. They'd come in with all their animals, all the different animals, trying to sell everything and anything, like, you know what I mean? To everything from sheep, pigs, there'd be donkeys for sale, the whole lot. I remember one day there was a man outside the door that got a belt of a horse, and he was kind of knocked out unconscious, and they brought him in. They laid him down over there, and my mother made him a cup of sweet tea. But he was in shock, like. But when the doctor came in anyway, he said that he was all right, that there was nothing really damaged, but he got some kick, like.
Well, what was his name?
Connors.
Oh, was he then?
He was a heavy man.
Horse fair.
He was involved in horses, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just with the horse.
He actually, I met him about 10 or 12 years later, and he actually thanked me for the help that my mum and dad gave him, you know.
But with the horse fair, in those days, did the pubs close down, or did they stay open? Because the other way now.
Well, no, the horse fair back then there was everything on the square. There was all different types of animals. It wasn't just horses.
Okay.
There was cattle, there was sheep, there was pigs, and they'd line them all along the front of the businesses. You know, so the whole square was covered in animals, and on the square was covered in animals. There'd be people selling all sorts of stuff, you know, potatoes and vegetables and everything else. The farmers would bring in all their different gear, like. It was a big day. Like, it was a good day for the bears because then you'd be very busy, like, you know. And again, then when we had the restaurant, the people would be up having their lunch and their breakfast, and so it was a very good day for the town, like.
Well, what was the relationship like with the travellers then? Like, you know what I mean? Like, especially with the horses, travellers would be buying and selling horses.
Yeah.
But I mean, would they be allowed into the pubs?
Back in those days, they would, yeah, because they did not mix with the local people, like, and they done different things. They made pots, they made kettles. If you gave them a copper cylinder, they could make 3 or 4 different things out of it, like, you know. And they'd keep one for themselves, give you 2, and then you give him, say, 10 shillings or something like that for it, you know.
So they had a very much part of the community.
Oh, they had, yeah. They used to help farmers as well, like doing things. If they were shifting stuff, bales of hay and all this kind of stuff. If they were shifting stuff out of sheds, they give them a hand and they give them a feed and give them a few bob. So they did their little share of work, you know.
Yeah. And what other, just trying to think of other characters that would be in around. Joe, sorry, with the music and all the ring and all that, with the Irish language, do you remember much about that when you were growing up? Like, was that kind of died out at that stage with the Irish language, or was a revival still?
No, not really. We used to learn it. We learned it in school, like, so we all spoke a little bit of it, like, you know, and you tried to do your best, like.
But you know, the way you talked outside, like,
yeah.
Was that active? Would people come in and speak Irish, or was that?
Oh, they would, yeah. It was a big thing out in Ring. It was more so out in Ring than here, like, you know.
Or would you go out there as kids or teenagers?
You go out there swimming, yeah. It's lovely to go. There's a big cove out there. You go swimming. That was grand out there, you know. It was grand to get up on the bicycle on a nice day and go out for a cycle.
And what about music, like trad music and all that? Was there much of that?
Oh, that was big around the town, yeah. And Ring.
Okay.
All the bars. And as I said, if the festivals we used to have a lot of festivals here as well. We'd fail in the Dacia and all that kind of thing was. Yeah, and there was a lot of Irish at that as well, you know. There was a couple of trad festivals every year. And then in the weekends you'd have it in the bars as well, in the bars. There'd be music as well, you know.
I mean, I suppose it's kind of sad in the sense that the square is quite dead now as regards. Not many people living here anymore, is there?
No, there's very few families now. When I was growing up, every house nearly had a family in it. But today there's not even half a dozen, like, in the whole square. They're all empty upstairs, like, you know. Sad, really, in one way, like.
Yeah.
You know.
And what about where would fellas get work? I mean, you mentioned the creamery. Do you remember going to the creamery when you were small?
Yeah.
So what was it like?
We used to go in there playing. We used to have two little dogs, Rusty and Remy, they were corgis. And you try and sneak in because it was a great place to hang out, like, when you were young. And some of the workers would let you in there and let you play around, but more of it hunt you, because I suppose for your safety with all the different things that were in there. But there was another place we used to go down to in the quay. It was a cotton store. They used to hold the big bales of cotton down there. And the farmers would shear the sheep. They used to put them into big bales and bring it down, and they'd sell it down there to the cotton store. And we used to be in there playing tig, or hide and seek. And when you jump on the bale of hay, you go about 4 foot into the air onto the next one. So it was great fun to be down there, like. That was a great place to hang out as kids as well, you know. But the men used to let you in there because they knew that you couldn't get hurt, like, with the wool. There was no way you could get hurt, like.
And what about the tannery then? What was that like? Did you ever get there when you were small?
The leather factory.
Yeah.
We used to go down there. There was, yeah, but it's not a place you go into really as such, no.
Tell me about that and
Oh, it's very smelly, like.
Yeah, it was, and there was old hides in there, and there was chemicals and stuff in there too, and there was a kind of, when you walked around that way, there was kind of bad smells in there, you know. It was just a place you go down there, but you wouldn't. We used to play soccer in front of it there. There was a big concrete area in front of it that we used to play soccer, but.
And what was the other industries? I mean, I know the glass factory came in later on. At that, you know, that was later on, this was late 60s, was it, or 70s?
Yeah.
So what else, other industries were there in Dungarvan at that time?
Well, you had Quigley Magnesite outside. They used to make a kind of a red clay. There was a lot involved in that now. They made good money there. It was an Irish American, I think, came over and opened it up, and that was going for a long time. Now, the lads working in there, they were on good money.
That was out in the harbour. Was it way out on the?
Out on the Gold Coast.
Out in the bay there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not in Dungarvan Bay, no. Down in the Gold Coast.
Well, what did they do there? Was it they needed water, seawater, was it, or something?
Well, they needed that as well to keep the things cool. But the train used to go down there with a kind of a red dust powder in there. They used to make fire things out of it. But that went on for years. That was very good as well. Plus we had 2 breweries, we had 3 bakeries. There was a lot of activity going on in the town back then too as well, you know.
So generally people got employment in Dungarvan?
Oh yeah.
It wasn't like they had to emigrate or
Well, they did actually. In the summertime, a lot of the teenagers would go down. We had the railway station, which is not there anymore. They'd all go up to the Isle of Wight for the summer working in hotels and industries like that. Like they go and then they come back again.
And that was a tradition, was it?
Oh yeah, that was a great time. There was a lady here in town, and she used to get you to work. So when you left Dungarvan, you had a place to stay and you had a job to go to. And
That's really funny. You all went to the Isle of Wight.
Well, I didn't. I went to Jersey, but most of the people in town went to the Isle of Wight. There's actually a place in the Isle of Wight, they call it the Dungarvan Bandstand.
Go ahead.
And there was a lad who used to come in here. He's dead now. All the mess. He was Eddie Wright. He went over the first time he left home. He was about 15. And the lady that owned at the hotel asked him, did he get to eat since he left Dungarvan? And he said no. So she brought him into the kitchen and she gave him his dinner. And she said to him, would you like a sweet? And he said, I'll have some bullseyes. He said, if you haven't. He said. He didn't know what a sweet was. He never had a sweet. I was going way back to the 50s, you know.
Yeah.
So that was poor Eddie in the Isle of Wight.
And come here, you often hear people talking about fellas hanging around the square. You know,
Oh yeah, at the end of Mary Street, yeah. That was lads that had no work.
yeah. So what was that about?
It was just a kind of a gathering, like they'd all meet up over at the end of Mary Street. They'd stand around and chat for hours and hours, and then they might go away for a walk and come back again.
Or was that the hope that someone might take them on or something? Or was
No, it was just a kind of a gathering place. Like when we were the same, when we were, say, just coming to the end of our school time, there was Tony Lawns was across the square. That was a little restaurant, petrol pumps, and a booking office. And we'd all hang around over there until somebody'd say, it's 5:30. The Monkeys used to be on the television, and I think it was a Wednesday at 5:30. And there could be a gang of us over there, there could be 30 of us. And next minute somebody mentioned about the Monkeys and we'd be all gone. Everybody running home to see the Monkeys on the television. It was just the kind of a place where you kind of meet your friends and have a chat and have a smoke and hear the latest news, like, you know.
And John, can I ask you about the pictures that you took in the 80s?
Oh yes, of the shopkeepers.
Yeah, tell us, why did you have that notion? Where did that come from?
I was interested in the design of the shop fronts first of all, the graphics, because I was doing graphic design in Dublin, and I could see the old shop fronts were a thing of the past, so I said I'd record them, and I was used to taking photos of characters and things, so each shopkeeper was a different character, so I just enjoyed taking them in their environment.
And did they mind?
Most of them didn't mind at all. It was up to me. I was kind of nervous about asking some of them, you know, but because I was very young, like, but they didn't mind. No, some of them wouldn't stand in themselves into the shop front, which was a pity, like. But most of them would, and some of them, there was a few then refused totally, so that was a pity, you know. But
and most of them were taken at the doors, outside door of the door.
If they had a shop front with lettering or something on it, I would take them outside. But I took a lot interior ones as well. But for the sake of just on display, I used display the ones with the shop fronts so that people associate, they can remember them.
And just what, like, you know, the way some shops are very evocative, like the smell even. What shops would come to mind, like, as you went around? What were the?
Well, I remember Danny Manny was the saddler now, and his shop was fascinating. All the leather bits hanging up in it, and all the old bridles and harnesses. And he was very neat. He used to have little pieces of paper up with the charge, waiting for the farmers or whoever it was to come in and collect them. And his tools. Then he had lovely old tools, and real old world, like. So that was interesting.
And Fleming's over here, they used to have the seed. You could smell all these big drums of seed. You'd go in, you'd scoop it out into your bag and put it up in the weighing scales. You could smell it when you'd be passing the door as well.
I remember taking Con Roach's photograph, and he had some kind of electrical equipment he used to use for taking away warts and stuff. But he used to have these electrical things. I thought that was fascinating, kind of lights on them and stuff.
Well, what was he, a chemist or a doctor?
A barber.
A barber?
But that was part of the barber's trade, I think, a little bit of surgery.
There was a shop down the end of the street there called Hurley's. The front of it used to be back. And as I mentioned the buses earlier on, Eddie Mooney used to come in the bus on a Friday, and people used to bring in their wet and dry batteries. And that's the one day he wouldn't let you into the shop, because the whole floor of the shop used to be covered in the batteries. And he'd recharge the batteries for the people. And then the fumes and stuff off. So that was the one day he wouldn't let you into the shop.
I don't remember that either.
What other shops, as you went around now, what shops do you remember really strongly, like from?
What shops strongly? I remember. Let me see now.
Starting with that in Cantillans.
Yeah, I know. Well, what shops I photographed, is it? Yeah. Well, I remember Nicky Casey's below. That was when I went in to photograph that shop, that pub. That must have been the first time I was ever in the pub, because I used to just have been in there.
Was it like an old man's pub, like?
Well, it was a working man's pub and country man's pub. You know, it wasn't an old man's pub. At the time, they may have seemed like they were old men, but they weren't. It was just a regular pub. But there used to be cabbage and stuff outside the door and that. And
so they had a shop at the front?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There used to be baskets outside the door, like, and the hardware shops were interesting because they always used to have like loads of stuff behind the counter, like the little shelves. I used to like the image, you know, and that. Both Kearns and Maloney's and Tom Kearns and Michael Kearns. I photographed those and getting all the stuff in it. And it's, when you go back over the years later, then when you look back at the photographs, you notice the stuff in the background. It was like the plumber in Mary Street. What was his name? Power the plumber. Like, I photographed him, but now when you look back at the photograph, you can see all the old tools and the old stuff that he used to use. You know.
So you kind of a smell of putty out of his place when you pass it, wouldn't it?
You wouldn't notice it at the time, but I knew that the camera was recording everything, you know, that it was capturing it. So I didn't have, once I had the photo taken, I didn't care. I had it on film and that was it. I knew it was there then for further.
And you developed your own pictures, didn't you?
Yes, in the darkroom, yes. The film.
And did you have a sense at that stage that it was like the end of an era, or did you, I mean, Do you know what I mean? Was that in your head somewhere, or did you just?
It was in my head at the end of an era. The shops were the end of an era. Yes, definitely. Yes, yes, I could see it changing.
You've seen like in Dublin and stuff like that. You were in college, you said.
Yeah, but I could see like the old handwritten signs, for example, the painted signs were being replaced with plastic and all that. You know, you could see it. It was obvious, but it was more obvious having been in Dublin when you come home than if you were here. You wouldn't have noticed it as much. But then I was interested. I was interested in that work, you know. So
it was brilliant that you caught them all.
yeah.
Okay, and I'd say people appreciate it afterwards, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't catch them all, like, but I caught
Yeah.
quite a few, like. But I was used to photographing characters here in the bar as well, because when I started doing photography, I had plenty of subjects to work on, and I used to bring them upstairs or out the back and take a photograph of them, you know. So I have lots of people.
And you said your uncle was a photographer.
Yes, Denis Tynan in Glenties,
Yeah,
Donegal.
did your mum and dad then encourage you to do this?
My uncle encouraged me in the sense that when I used to visit him, he'd show me how to process the film, and then when I took it up in college, he kind of was helpful as well then.
So you're like his protege.
Well, I don't know, am I?
But like, you know, the lads in the bar, would they mind if you said, like, do you want to take a picture of it?
Well, they wouldn't mind at all, no. And when I was working professionally as a photographer, I used to do weddings and stuff. When I come back here, there might be a few shots left on the roll of film, so I just used them up around the bar. Because of film, you were limited in your amount of shots, and you didn't really want to waste any of the film. So if there was one or two unexposed frames on the film, I'd find somebody to photograph just to use it up, because I didn't like processing a film that hadn't been fully used.
And then, as you mentioned to us yesterday when we were talking about a couple of old ladies that John caught on camera that who were interesting characters. You mentioned one who used to sell fish.
And Mrs. Murphy.
Was that?
Well, it's Mrs. Murphy, yeah.
Just tell us those stories.
She used to go up to the local fishmonger and he'd give her a box of mackerel, and she'd bring him down to the square on a hand truck with a big pile of newspapers, and you'd come along and you'd buy your fresh fish. And then when she'd have the box of fish sold, she'd go back up to the local fishmongers and pay him then for the box, so she was getting them on credit really. So then he'd give her another box, and then she'd come down. If she sold that, she'd keep going till she'd sell as many as she could. And that's how she made her few bob, like, you know. She'd selling fish at the corner out of a fish box in the square.
And there was another old lady you mentioned about, was it you mentioned about the...
Oh, Kathleen Driscoll, yeah. Kathleen used to love drinking small bottles of Guinness, but the poor lady, she often hadn't enough money to even buy a bottle. So there was a local pub across the road, James Dosey's, and he put up an area and he was able to get in the BBC, which was very bad picture, very bad quality. So all the lads used to have to stand up in the seats and kind of lean forward to see the best as they could. So Kathleen would come in the door and all the boys would be clapping for Manchester United or whatever team they followed. She'd come in and she'd take a big swig out of all the glasses and run out the door. She was a ticket, and she'd always ask you, have you treatments? I want to buy a small bottle. So people would give her a few bob to buy a bottle, you know. They were two lovely ladies.
And like the local people, they'd look after those people?
Ah, they would, yeah, they would. Like at that time, everybody watched out for everybody, you know what I mean? It was a great thing, really, like, you know. Or if they could help out in any way, if they're doing something, a job in the house from or something like that, they'd help out, like, you know. So it was good that way, like it.
And were you, as an older brother, were you proud of John's photography skills?
Oh, sure, I couldn't get over it, yeah, because I never had he was the brains of the family, like, you know. They sent him to college. I didn't get to go to college at all. My father knew there was no point in sending me to college because they sent him instead. You know. Because he had a bit of a brain, I hadn't.
A bit of a brain.
I got to go to the local tech, which was good as well, like, you know what I mean. I enjoyed it, like, you know.
And John, what was it like going off to Dublin then? Was that?
Oh, it was great, yeah. Well, I went to Cork first.
Okay.
Yeah. I met all the arty crowd in Cork. That was great
fun. Was that in Crawford or UCC?
Crawford, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a great breakaway. It kind of left my hair down. And
he was a hippie.
I wasn't a hippie, no. I was an artist. And I got to do all the different things like sculpture and a bit of everything in Cork, and a bit of painting, and tried them all out. And I kind of settled down on graphic design. So I went to Dublin then to the National College and did graphics there.
Okay.
And that entailed photography and graphic design and stuff. But
And did you live in Dublin then, or
just, yeah, I did, yeah.
did you move back to Dungarvan eventually?
I was only a student there, like I was just a student, and just as I was finishing college, my father passed away, like, you know, so we had to come home and take over the business.
And was that frustrating for you, in the sense of that you would like to
It was a
pursue
shock, yes.
as an artist?
Oh, it was a shock, you know. Well, I wouldn't call myself an artist now, but I mean, it was a shock. All right, but you had to just do what you had to do, like keep the show on the road. So I was able to do stuff here as well then. I started off doing.
And was there much of an appreciation in Dungarvan at the time for the arts? Like, say for example, would there be plays coming to town, or would there be?
Oh yeah, big down the Friary Hall was a great place for all the plays.
Okay.
A lot of the Court Society and the Drama Society. They used to have loads of lovely plays down on shows. They're very popular at the time, because other than that, all you had was the cinema above. Like, I mean, RTE used to shut off, I think, around 8 or 9 o'clock every evening, so after that there was not much to do. So they put on some great shows and plays and stuff, you know.
And can you remember any interesting artistic people in the town and way back? Like, was there anyone that was kind of like, now you're right now you have like people like Mo Dunford going off to be famous in different places or wherever. Was there any other exiles at that time that you can?
Well, there was a man on the square there, Hallahan's chemist there, Desi Hallahan. He was an artist. He used to paint nice pictures and pictures of the square. Well, you know, but he was kind of.
Jim Lawn over the road.
Jim Lawn came later on then, and Michael Mulcahy,
yeah.
And Gia Morrissey was my artist teacher in school here in Dungarvan, and she was very encouraging, you know.
Liam Stackton was other. He was in Glenroe.
Oh, he was an actor, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was from town. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the name of the hat?
Right. Anything else from that?
I suppose the only thing would be like when you were little, kind of looking out in the square, what would you have seen outside? Like you look out now, you've seen old parking space and stuff. What would the view have been? What would you have seen going past the window?
Excuse me.
Well, you'd see everything, you know. Like the lighting used to go off at 12 o'clock in the night. So after 12 o'clock, you'd see nothing. So the whole town the lights used to go off at 12 o'clock. So you'd hear people outside and they'd be singing away and talking, alright, but you wouldn't see them. So 12 o'clock came in. It wasn't like now, like there wouldn't be as many cars. There could be maybe 4 or 5 cars on the square at that time.
And he lived over at the pub.
That's right, yeah.
And would you remember the sound of the animals coming in and all that kind of stuff for the fair?
Oh yeah. They'd be roaring and bawling outside there. Some the young kids would be missing their mother, like they'd be roaring all day long.
And the creamery behind us, there all the lorries, that's what made the most noise.
The lorries used to go in and out there, like, you know.
In the mornings then the lorries would be all starting up, the milk lorries.
Some of the windowsills even used to twist from the weight of the lorries going in and out. We used to see, you could notice the windowsills. And there'd be lorries constantly going in and out all day, like, you know.
But you got used to
With
it.
milk and yeah, it's just a thing that you took in, you know.
Town life.
Town life, it was great, yeah.
Yeah.
When you grew up, you had plenty of friends and everything, like, you know.
And there's generations coming into the bar here, like there's families that are coming in, their grandfathers came in here, so it's kind of like
fathers and that, yeah.
you're meeting the same families over the years.
And speaking of that, John, you know when your dad passed away,
Yes,
like that was sudden, was it?
yes,
Okay. But the only way he would have a relationship with all his customers,
yes.
was that weird for you to come in then and kind of try and take over?
Well, it wasn't weird, but you were always considered the young fella right up to you had to, for 30 years you were still the young fella, you know.
And would the customers, would they look out for you? Or
They would,
Oh, they would, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You come in, sometimes they'd call you in, they'd chat away to you. John used to ask him for a penny for sweets, like he'd always ask him for money for sweets, you know. Some fellas used to give it to him, more fellas used to give him a clout, you know.
No, but you know the whole thing about, like we say in your father's generation, it was normal to give credit.
Yeah.
But did you stop that or did you continue
We
on?
tried it for a while and it didn't work.
They saw you coming.
Yeah.
We learned that lesson fairly fast.
You learn that fairly fast.
But that kind of all died out then around the 60s, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was no off licenses, so people used to get, if they had something on at home, they'd get something to take home, you know. But that died out then, you know, with the off license in the supermarkets.
Okay.
I remember Dad used to have a big estate and he used to go around to different places like Whitechurch House and we delivered the beer and the cigarettes and the cigars and stuff. Like as John said, there was no off sales. So I remember sitting in the car with him, going to different places, delivering beer and whiskey and stuff. They'd be all wrote into the book. Like.
I suppose if there was a funeral or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
We still have some of those books with all the names. And
With the records.
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
And the staff records too, isn't it, with their wages and all that.
Yeah, the staff go back to years and all that.
There was a lot working here then, like, you know.
So we have all that.
So when you took over, John, there was also like, you still had the restaurant and all that?
No, the restaurant closed in 1977.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was closed. So I started doing photography upstairs then, just to use it, be able to use that area. But the restaurant had finished. But there's still people calling here thinking the restaurant is still open, visitors from Clonmel and places like that.
Cool.
Yeah, that have been coming for years.
And with the photography then, did you do all things like communions and all
Yes.
that kind of stuff?
General stuff, yeah.
And was there anyone else in the town doing it at that stage?
Rory Wiley was obviously, he was established and I was the upstart.
You were in a new pub in town?
Yeah, the new pub in town then. There was a good few then came after me, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And was there a tradition of photography in Dungarvan going way back then?
there was Keown's photographers, yeah. There was, yeah. It was, and Flash Tobin, he was a great photographer. Tom Tobin, I really admired his work now because he used to capture people working as well and capture people in their environments. He was a press photographer and journalist, like he'd write stories and so he had a great eye for what was happening as
Black and
opposed
white
to
as well.
as opposed to just doing weddings and stuff, you know. He was capturing stuff for newsworthy stuff. So
And is any of those old collections still existing?
Oh yeah.
I'd say the museum have a lot of his stuff, you know. It's well preserved, and the museum have Rory Wiley stuff as well. You probably know that, and so
Actually have some nice stuff as well from the
yeah.
60s.
Okay, well listen lads, thanks very much.
All right.
That was great. I mean, I know it's a small insight into your lives. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
just a small little view into it. So, thanks.
You're
very
welcome.
It was good, like, growing up in the town as well, you know, it was great.
Still
They were
good.
happy days, like, you know, you were.
Well, it sounds like it because it's like it doesn't sound like people were dying to get out of Dungarvan. Do you know what I mean? Like,
No.
You know what
No.
I mean? Because I know of other places in Ireland where people were saying, couldn't wait to get out. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it doesn't sound like that.
Like as I said to you, back in the 60s and the 70s when the people were going to the Isle of Wight, the minute the season was over in the Isle of Wight, they were all back in town again and all working. They'd all get jobs back in town again, like.
Yeah.
You know, so it
Which
was.
is interesting.
Yeah, when you'd meet them, then you'd be all excited to hear the stories about the Isle of Wight because never having been there, like, you know, they'd be saying this and that, which we wouldn't have here. Like when we were growing up here, you had basic chocolate like Cadbury's. But in England, the Isle of Wight, like, they had a massive selection of sweets and stuff that we didn't here. And the clothes, they were about 10 years ahead of us in the clothes. Like the Teddy Boys time with the pointed shoes and the tight jeans and all that kind of stuff. And we hadn't that for 10 years later. So when they'd come back from the Isle of Wight, they'd have all the fancy gear on and top of the range shirts and all this kind of thing. You know, so it was, you'd be mad to chat to them and speak to them about what the Isle of Wight was like. And then you'd be getting it into your mind, I'm going to go there next year kind of thing, you know.
And was there any pubs we say in town that kind of went as kind of a young person's pub, like, you know, like where they played rock music and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, there was several of them, yeah. There was the Rusty Nail above, there was Lucy's, there was a lot of pubs around that time. But the bar that John mentioned over there, just came into my mind now, was Nicky Casey's. That was called the Booty Man's Bar. And for years I could never understand why it was called the Booty Man's Bar. Because just up from the pub there was a big wall. And on the fair days, they used to bring in the stallions, right? And then the other farmers, then they'd bring in their mares to get serviced. And the reason it got the Booty Man's Bar was because the men would tell you, don't go up there, the booty man will get you. They didn't want you to see the
horse in action.
Yeah. So that was called, that's why it was called the. And for years I couldn't figure out why it was called. So I made inquiries and I found out that's the reason. Don't go up there, the booty man will get you.
They just want to scare the children away.
Keep them away from it, yeah. Well, I suppose for safety reasons as well, you know what I mean. And also, it was, that was for years I couldn't figure out why it was called that, you know.
That's gas.
Then again, I said the other house was the Monkey House. That was called that because of the what used to go on in there, like you're drinking the cider and that, so they just got the name of the monkey house, you know.
Wild apes. And
Wild apes, yeah. There was another place then down Scanlon's Yard, was a great place to hang out as well. There was coffin sheds and everything down there. So we used to all go down there drinking cider as well.
there was one, yeah.
Coffin sheds. They used to make coffins in the town back then. There were sheds down there, they used to store them, the coffins inside in the sheds. So if you were playing, the Fennels as well was another one, there were several of them.
Yeah, Tom Barry was the coffin man.
Yeah, but if you were playing hide and seek, like you'd stand into one of the coffins and put the lid up, so if there was a young lad coming to try to catch you, there was no way he'd go into the coffin shed, so you were safe out, you could stay in there all day. But that was a great place to hang out and drink cider, you know. So we used to dig dugouts down there. We dig down about 8 feet and put a roof on it. And we put the sods back up on top, it'd be waterproof. And we go down there then in the daytime or the night time, we'd read comics, and we had a little stove in there. You had a bottle of cider in it. You'd be only about 14 at the time, like. So it was a great place, good place to hang out as well, like, you know. So that was another place. But like, I mean, it was great around the town, like, you know, it was always something to do, even though there was, like, it wasn't like today you had no youth clubs or no name clubs or anything like that, like. There was only very few places you could go, like, as I mentioned one time was the Kip over, John Dials, that was a great place. That's the only place you could go on a wet day, like.
What about would you ever head up to Cummins?
For walks, yeah, you go off on walks, and the canal was another great walk. You'd head out around the canal, you go along the canal, you'd see out with all the wildlife and everything else, and you'd see salmon in the river. You'd try to catch them, but you wouldn't have a hope, like, you'd have to know how to do it. Some fellas knew how to do it. And there was 2 girls going out the road one day in the car, in the squad car. And I heard this from one of the girls himself, so I hope he doesn't mind me telling you. He was going out the road and he see these 2 lads coming in with a newspaper under their arm. And he said to the young girl that was driving the car, he said, look, he said, the 2 boys now, they have a salmon there in the bag, he said. So he said, keep going now, keep going up. So he said, turn the car now and come back. So they came back anyway, and he said, stop now near that gateway. So he went in over the gate, and here was the newspaper thrown down inside the gate. And they opened it up and there was 2 salmon in it. So the older girl gave the younger girl, here's a salmon for you, he said. Yeah. Man now said the young girl, we go down with the Evans, we'll catch him. He said, you can use yours as Evans, he said, I'm bringing my one home. That's a true story. No. So.
The best is salmon.
Oh yeah. But there was lads out there, like, you were good at it, like. But there was one lad out there as well, he was a plasterer.
How would they catch him? Would they use a net or would they?
They used to use line.
Throw a line in the water?
Throw a line and he'd come up for air. He couldn't breathe. Some of them had nets, they put a net across him. But there was a character used to come in and he was a plasterer. And he said he was out there one day and he saw this big salmon, a huge salmon, so he'd no way of catching him. So there was a crab apple tree there. So he pulled the branch off the crab apple tree and he went over and he stuck the salmon with the branch of the tree, and he was so big he said he couldn't hold on to him. And eventually the salmon got away up the river. And he was out there 2 years later, and here he saw the branch of the tree coming down with 2 apples growing on the branch. So now, there you go with your salmon.
The salmon of knowledge.
Yeah, the salmon of knowledge, yeah. But there was a lot of salmon. I don't think there's that many out there now, like, you know what I mean? They've all been fished out, you know. It's a shame really in one way, like, you know.
There was a famous man, oh God, this is way back now, that he was, he kind of lived nearly semi-wild up in the Cummins. Did you ever hear that story?
Yeah.
What was his name?
Oh my God, I can't think now. There was a doctor out in Ardmore used to go up every now and again and attend him.
Yeah.
He lived up in a cave, he'd all skins and rabbit skins and all that into it. But he used to come down into the local village and get his bits and pieces. And somebody told me that he used to do drawings with charcoal from the fire, that he was able to do paintings and that like. But that's a long time ago.
Yeah, no, the story was, I think, that he'd shelled shop after the First World War.
Yeah.
And then he didn't want to be around people, so he went up there.
Yeah.
Lackandara Jim. That was his name.
Good. Yeah. I remember the story when I was young, all right, and because we had the same doctor. So he used to be telling my mum and dad like so. Dr. McNamara, who was out in Ardmore, he was related to the Flynns next door. So he used to attend them when he gets sick. Like. So we used to be listening to this story about this man that lived up on the side of a mountain. Like, we couldn't get over it. Like when you're young and you hear these kind of stories, you know, you say, what kind of, we didn't know like that he did suffer from the shell shock from the war.
Okay.
Oh no.
Well, thanks very much, Dennis.
No problem.
And thanks, John. John, what do we do about getting a few of the old photographs on the shot?
Get out your checkbook.
Do we take pictures of them?
We're getting paid for this.
Do we take pictures of them?
1 second now.
There's a lovely one there in the front. It's there from 1959 of the photographer that he actually mentioned.
Oh, go ahead.
And that the cap is in it. Remember I told you about the hand cap delivering the parcels?
Yeah.
That's in there.
That's what I'm saying.
Do you remember that? The hand cap going around delivering the parcels?
You do, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be really good to reference some of the
That's
things you
not so long
mentioned
ago.
with the photographs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just did one more.